Artificial intelligence isn't science fiction anymore. It's everywhere. It's shaping our world in ways we're just beginning to understand, from the news you see on your feed to whether or not you can get a loan. And with that kind of power comes a huge, huge challenge.
Which leads to a pretty interesting question. I mean, it seems totally counterintuitive, right? We think of code as just objective, neutral, zeros and ones. But the thing is, algorithms can absolutely be biased. So the real question becomes, how on earth does a machine learn to be unfair?
All right, so to really get into this, we have to start with the basics. We've got to define what we're even talking about. So what exactly is AI bias?
Okay, at its core, AI bias isn't just some random glitch in the system. It's a pattern. It's about systematic errors that consistently and unfairly put certain groups of people at a disadvantage while giving others a leg up. You could almost think of it like prejudice, but encoded into a machine.
So that's the what. Now for the how. If we're assuming nobody is programming this stuff in on purpose, and they're usually not, then where is it coming from? I mean, a machine isn't born with these prejudices, right? It has to learn them from somewhere.
And it turns out there are three main culprits here. First, and this is the big one, is data bias. It's simple. If you train an AI on skewed, unrepresentative data, you're going to get a skewed AI. Garbage in, garbage out. Second, you've got algorithmic bias, which is when flaws in the actual design of the model create unfairness. And finally, and this is a really tricky one, there's societal bias. This is where the AI basically becomes a mirror, learning and even amplifying the prejudices that are already floating around in our society, and of course, in our data.
Now, this isn't just some abstract theoretical debate for data scientists. AI bias has very real, tangible consequences. So let's take a look at where this is already showing up and affecting people's lives.
And our first stop is the U.S. criminal justice system. There's an algorithm called COMPAS, and its job was supposed to be predicting the likelihood that a defendant would reoffend. But here's what an investigation found. The algorithm was almost twice as likely to falsely flag black defendants as higher risk compared to white defendants. Let that sink in for a second. A system that was literally designed for objectivity was systematically failing one racial group way more often than another.
Okay, next up, facial recognition. We use this for everything now, right? From unlocking your phone to identifying suspects in police investigations. But you have to wonder, how well does it actually see everyone?
Well, a really important study from MIT found that these systems they're far from perfect, and their mistakes aren't spread out evenly. Turns out the technology worked way, way better on lighter-skinned men than it did on darker-skinned women. And this isn't just some minor inconvenience, This can lead to serious stuff, like false accusations and misidentification.
And for our last example, let's talk about something that affects pretty much all of us, getting a job. A ton of companies are now using AI to sift through thousands and thousands of resumes, hoping to find the best people faster. So Amazon built a tool to do exactly that, but they had to scrap it. And you want to know why? Because the AI literally taught itself that male candidates were better. It learned this because it was trained on 10 years of the company's hiring data, which, surprise, surprise, was mostly from men. It got so bad the system actually started penalizing resumes that had the word women's in them, like captain of the women's chess club. Okay, so if we know all this, if we see these biases, why can't we just, fix them? Well, it's because the problem is that defining what fairness even means for an algorithm is way harder than you'd think. Just think about it. There are these two competing ideas of what's fair. On one hand, you have what's called demographic parity. That basically means making sure the outcomes are equal, like the same percentage of loans get approved for every single group. But then, on the other hand, you have equalized odds. This is about making sure the accuracy is the same, so the AI makes mistakes at the same rate for everybody. And here's the kicker. A lot of the time, these two goals are mathematically in conflict. If you push hard for one, you can actually make the other one worse. And that leads us to this really fundamental trade-off. If you force a model to follow a super strict fairness rule, you can sometimes end up making it less accurate overall. It's this constant balancing act between trying to achieve equity and also keeping the model's performance high. But listen, the challenge isn't impossible. Not at all. Researchers and engineers are working on this stuff right now, developing a whole toolkit of strategies to find and fix bias, all with the goal of building a future with much more equitable AI. We can kind of think of the technical fixes in three main stages. So first, you can try to fix the data before you even start training the model. That's step one. Second, you can build fairness rules directly into the model's training process itself. And third, you can actually adjust the results after the model has already made its predictions to make sure they're fair.
But here's the thing. Technology is only one piece of the puzzle. The bigger strategies are just as important, maybe even more so. We're talking about things like collecting way more diverse and representative data, using special auditing tools to actively hunt for bias, demanding more transparency so we can understand why an AI is making the decisions it's making, and of course, setting up really strong ethical guidelines and policies.
And all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most important point of all. Technology by itself isn't going to solve this problem. It absolutely requires a human-centered approach.
You see, tackling AI bias isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. It's a continuous process. It's about being vigilant. It really demands this partnership between technology, policy, and ethics. We have to be constantly auditing these systems, questioning them, and improving them as they get more and more woven into the fabric of our lives.
So, let's end with this thought. If an AI is basically just a mirror reflecting the data, the society that we show it, all of our history, our decisions, our flaws, then the most important question we have to ask ourselves isn't just a technical one, it's a societal one. What kind of world do we want that mirror to reflect back at us?